very on the bottom, you see the 1515R and the 1517H. And when you introduce the device in your WinCC project, you actually see like here the whole H system, which includes two PLCs. You can also see here that under the S7-1500 you see two PLC1, PLC2 systems in here. Some topics about it. It's no deep redundancy know-how required, so you just configure it actually like a simple PLC, 1500 PLC. And you can scale the switching time, and you do have 1513R to 1517H available. Oh yeah, here you see it. So here you see the complete system that it's included, but it's actually in the network view. Or when you switch to the network view, you can see that within this whole system, you do have two PLCs in here. And when you open up the configuration, you can also see what I mentioned yesterday regarding WinCC, or the communication to WinCC, that you can activate down here, enable the system IP address for switch communication. So whenever you want this device to communicate with a non-relevant device, the system IP is used. Also for the communication to a WinCC, for example. Difference between R and H, so relevant system and high available system, is basically you see here on the R relevant side, the synchronization is done over the MRP ring, and on the high availability side, you see that the synchronization is done over the fiber connection, which of course affects the switching time in that case. So when we talk about the relevant system, we're at a 200 to 500 millisecond switching time, and for a high available PLC, we talk about under 100 millisecond switching time. Okay. Yeah, benefits. I already mentioned that no special redundancy know-how required. Standard configuration is the TIA portal. The standard S7-1500 features can be used like diagnostics regarding the web server, and system IP regarding communication to non-relevant devices or systems like SCADA. Okay. This basically general things about the R&H 1500. When we come to WinCC, we start with a new setting for the panels regarding persistent message buffer. What does that mean? Persistent message buffer actually means when you restart the system and you don't have alarm in an archive, and you still want to see the messages in your alarm control, the messages are still available when you enable the persistent message buffer in your runtime settings, and you can also do it in the control panel setting or the comfort panel. Of course, please be reminded that those messages are saved in the internal flash memory. So if there are a high number of alarms, of course the internal flash memory will be stressed more. So if important messages are located in the archive anyway, please disable and switch off the persistent message buffer setting. Okay. Has anybody heard about the HMI Option Plus, which we released last year in March, I think, which is a free option to use. And what it basically does, and I just included the basic slides here as well. So Option Plus basically is a small exe file which you can install on the panel, and it actually works as a gateway between your operating system on the panel and the runtime itself. So for example, when we talk about parameters from the operating system, we talk about, for example, about IP addresses or the host settings, OPC/UA certificate handling, if you want to see during runtime how long the panel already runs, so the operating hours. You can also access that parameter. You can also see the memory load of the panel, total memory, free memory, and the used memory. And you can also see the versions of the firmware, for example, or the TA4 version, which is used. One thing, if you use Smart Service Monitor, you can also see how many smart clients are connected to the panel itself. I can actually just switch very quick to our online support. I hope all of you know the online support. By the way, because we talk about professional version 15.1, we actually also do have a web-based training which includes everything, so step 7 and WinCC, and I think also the drive stuff in this whole training here, web-based training, and you can actually choose the specific topics you want to have more information about. So I would definitely recommend this as well. The HMI Option Plus, just can search for HMI Option Plus, and it is a free, like I said, a free tool, no purchase of the tool, no costs. And it includes also, okay, seems like the link doesn't work right now. Okay. But of course I already downloaded the document which is available. So you will find there everything explained step by step. Oh, you don't see it? So it actually includes everything regarding commissioning, how to install the Option Plus tool, and of course the Excel file is available as well in the online support. I think it's about 28 megabyte or something, so it's not very big. And you can see all the detailed functionalities in here described in every single detail as well. And I would just recommend it because it's a nice thing. It's free, but it's free of charge. And it's an application example, so this is also adapted to the HMI template speed that I was mentioning yesterday. So style is the same. And like you see here, it's a library, so you can also include the screens already.
Nên là mình cho cái việc thiết kế HDI mình thì nó có thêm các cái option, những cái thêm tất cả thêm vào trong cái màn hình HDI phóng quát trở lên và phóng quát. Nó cũng có bao gồm cả cái HDI template siêu mà hôm qua các bạn được giới thiệu. Thì anh em thử như là các thời gian sắp tới mình sử dụng bài compost mình thử
the application example, Semantic HMI option plus. And like I was saying, the documentation is in here. The setup itself is about 28 megabyte. You can download also the library. And we do have an example project as well, so a demo project. Another thing, and it's actually mentioned right here as well, is the HMI toolbox, which is quite nice because, for example, these include different small, very useful tools. You see right away we do have different categories. So in that case, you do have time function tools, mathematical functions, you have data transfer tools, which are then listed in detail down here. And also you can see in which software package they are available. For example, we have a tool for calendar, for example, stopwatch timer, time, switch, road clock, for data transfer, barcode tool, QR code tool, emailing tool, a little chat tool during runtime. For mathematical functions, we do have a calculator or a unit converter. Just small little things, but might be pretty helpful. And in order to don't think about it on your own, it's already prepared. It's already in the style available, in the template suite style. So I would just recommend to have a look in here first. It's available for COM components, WinCC Runtime Advanced, WinCC Runtime Professional. Some of them also are available for basic panels as well. And I think there's also a demo project available. Yeah, and everything goes over libraries, so you can just drag and drop it and import it. And those are updated every time to the newest version, which is available. And you see here, last update was actually done in May, so it's pretty updated as well. Okay. And yes, of course, this is also free of charge. Okay, so application examples are always free of charge. Okay. And that's what it looks during runtime, adapted to the HMI template suite. So it's just I/O fields. In that case, it shows you the version of TIA portal and the firmware version. And here we have like the running hours of the panel itself. Okay. Yes, regarding Runtime Professional, the news regarding this, it's not a lot, but what we did also include is now the support of OPC raised for alarms and conditions. Like in WinCC 7.5 for the client. For ProDive, we see now the whole block interface instead of just the one line of the faulty operand. We did some smaller functional extensions for web-based stuff, like in the web navigator of WebUX, you can now also change the setting of the user rights in the user admin control. And we also introduced the automatic logon for the operator role when you use WebUX. And one other thing is that software controller with WinCC Professional on a shared computer. So software controller and WinCC Professional can actually be installed on the same system. And we also do have an application example for this, how it is done, how it is set up, and the installation as well. Okay. About the options, Regarding ProDiet, so this is actually how ProDiet works. I don't want to say a lot about ProDiet right now because we have a full blog regarding ProDiet. But what is new in 15.1 is that because the messages, the alarm messages are all configured on the PLC side, of course you can also export your message texts like it is needed in the WinCC SCADA in order to translate the messages. So you can also do that in ProDiet now for translation. Like I said before, the new thing is that you cannot just see the one line where the faulty operand is located in the FB. You can see the complete function block now in the control in order to see what happened for the other inputs as well in the function block. Okay. What we did include now for WinCC Advanced, this was just possible for WinCC Professional before. If you do have a failure in any operand or any interlock in the PLC program, you can now also jump into this specific and faulty function block in TIA code in the engineering from the runtime, and you can also set the view or view in the TIA code engineering software to read only, so no changes can be done in the engineering there.
So it is possible with WinCC Advanced, and it's possible. It's not possible with
not, I guess not yet. Well, most of the time we include it for other patents as well when the requirements are needed. So in that case, we just implemented it for WinCC Advanced and Professional.
So on first panel, we can have
well, the thing is, this function is requires the TIA code installation on the system. Because you need to have the TIA code installed, not just the runtime running. So in the case of a content panel, you don't have the runtime, the TIA code version or the TIA code installation on the system because it's a Windows CE system. So in that case,
you compose the graph you with the graph viewer.
Yeah, you can see all this. This is really just regarding jumping from the runtime into your engineering. So to actually have a look in the function block itself. Not about the control. The control is still available.
So this one is come with the ProDiet version, right? We have to install it. We have to have the license of the ProDiet.
Yes. But I will talk about later, like later in the blog. So this will be covered as well. Yeah. This is just what's new. CBAR. We are also talking about CBAR today. So the one thing I want to mention is that yes, we do have access protection for CBAR now over the UMAC, which is the new user administration tool. We can also use CBAR rules over openness now. That's actually it. Okay. And support for step 7 STL blocks as well, and you can also set the XY position over the CBAR expressions now as well. But what that means, I don't know, have you done the CBAR basic training before? Yeah. Okay, so some things might be telling you something already, but we will cover CBAR later on. Okay, energy speed, just 2 slides regarding energy speed. What we did include with 15.1 is new energy screens over the library, and also new report templates. In that case, especially regarding the cost center report, which are included and available in the library. Regarding dynamic devices, those don't need to be configured over the GSDML file anymore. Those are now available in the hardware catalog as well, and small improvements regarding usability as well. Okay. Yes, that's something what I thought would be interesting for you as well, because most of you use Runtime Professional or in general TA course. In what is planned for Runtime Professional version 16. Regarding WinCC, what we want to extend is the client-server communication. So when, for example, the client tries to connect to the server, but the server is not available so far, that the client actually waits for the server until the server is available and starts the connection then. Not like he just does one request, server not available, no connection established. Okay. We also plan some extensions regarding Prodike, but actually small things. So we also will include the comments in the PLC code viewer for the symbols. That's just an extension for the display. And regarding slice access, when that is used in the PLC program, we will actually also show the value of the operand. Regarding smaller functionality things, because the tag simulator is so nice in WinCC version 7, we will also include it in TA form for version 16. And the WX will be able to show the time from the PLC. And what we will also include in version 16 is the web browser control, which is now available in Professional, is still using components of the older Internet Explorer versions, which are not HTML5 supported. So in version 16, we want to upgrade the version for the web browser control of the Internet Explorer up to 11, which is HTML5 compatible. Reason behind that is that we want to integrate the web browser control in order to see the web server of the PLC, and the web server of the PLC is written in HTML5. That's the reason why we upgrade now the web browser control in Professional as well. Okay. Yes. Those are actually the comments you put next to your tags in the DB. So the comments behind that column comments will also be available, or it's just a display thing. So displayed in the control. Okay, IPCs. Just information before I show the slides. Those are very detailed in what the IPCs can do. I'm not trying to tell everything about the IPC, so I'm just going to cover the basic things. If you want to know more information about it, I think I also put the slides on the flash drive which you gave around yesterday. Yeah. Those should be in there as well. So if you want to know more about it, everything is in the slides still. Okay. New IPCs. I'm going to start with the smallest one, which is the Siemens IPC 127E. It's the nano box, and it's actually, if I switch to the picture, it's actually not bigger than, do you know an IoT 2040? How big it is? It's actually this size. So this IPC 127 is not bigger than, I think it's even that high. Yeah. So it's very, very small. But the big advantage of this IPC is that a full Windows system is installed on it. So it comes with a Windows 10 Enterprise LTSB 2016, which of course means that you can also install a WinCC or ITA port. We delivered with a dual-core or a quad-core processor. We also did include plenty of interfaces. You see DisplayPort to USB 3.0 to gigabit LAN. The extended version, you see the difference here, basic variant and extended variant. Those are just different in the number of ports which are available. So you see on the extended variant, it has a port on top, which is an extra Ethernet port, and I think it has one more USB port as well on the bottom. We also, short delivery times due to warehouse variants. So short delivery times seem to be promised. And one thing is also the flexible mounting options, and I do have an extra slide for that as well. Just before I come to that, I actually want to discuss the reason why we implemented the IPC 127 now. The reason was, and I actually compared it to already existing IPCs, because we do have an IPC 227E already, and the 327E, which are bigger IPCs, of course. But because of this, because of the housing size, which is a big minus here, we have a very large gap between those IPCs and the IoT 2040, for example, which is our smallest device right now. The counterpart about, or topic about the IoT 2040 is that it's actually just a Raspberry Pi, so you cannot install like a whole TIA port or a whole WinCC system on it because no Windows support. So we just have a Linux system on there, so we cannot install any WinCC software here. So what did we do in order to close this gap and put both advantages together are the IPC 127, which is very small in the size, and includes a Windows system, so Windows support as well, and you can install any WinCC scaler on there. Okay. The advantages are over Windows 10 in that case, because it's, like I already mentioned yesterday, all the IPCs are delivered with the LTSB, is the 10-year support of Microsoft. It comes with the most important security patches, and of course, in the LTSB is the industrial operating system of Windows, which means there are no consumer apps installed on this Windows system. Because it's already installed on there, it's a plug and play, so no entry of Windows is necessary when you boot the system. Like the menu box here, you can use it right away. The different device variants. I don't want to go into that much detail. The basic or the main message I want to give here is regarding the operating system. So you can purchase it without an operating system or with the Windows 10 Enterprise 2016 LTSB. One more information: when you purchase it without an operating system, we do have a so-called IPC Linux software available now. So you can install a Linux operating system on this device. That's actually the main information. So this IPC also supports Linux operating system. Regarding the mounting variants, it's actually pretty fun because of the size of the IPC 127, you can actually place it right next to a PLC in the rack. Because because it's so small, and you can also mount it on a rail. One thing regarding the mounting options is that the mounting accessories are not delivered within the purchase of the IPC itself. So those here have a own MLFB number according to the use case you want to use it for. So, for example, here the IPC is mounted that all the ports are like on front, or this is that the ports are all on the bottom. So, or even wall mounting. So you want to put it on the wall, or like I said, maybe right next to a PLC. Then you can also put it on the pin row.
So can we install software in this type?
Sure, it's a Windows system, Windows operating system. So you can also, you can actually, yeah. So it's a software PLC, but you can like, yeah.
Một con này với cả nhau là đủ.
Yes, you can. Next IPC is the 847E. The old one was the 847D. So what is the difference now? Of course, we changed something in the design, and it's a little bit smaller as well as our IPC. Yeah, like I said, we now switch all operating system to an LTSB system. In that case, we have now USB 3.1 generation 2 and Type-C USB ports. We also use now the new generation of the Core I processors. And we also support the DDR4 memory access. And no SATA anymore for SSDs. It's now the new interface, which is M.2. Included also 3 graphic interfaces, which actually could support 4K monitors as well. Okay. What is Type-C USB? Type-C USB is, as you know, I think iPhone has it already as well. Yeah, the advantage actually is that either way you put the cable in the port, it fits both sides. So it's not like, because that's what bugs me all the time, for USB, it always has to be one direction. Okay. That's basically this. That's very interesting because I compared the IPC847D, so the older version, to the new version regarding the processors. And you do see here on the left side, those were the processors for the IPC847D, so the older ones from i3 up to Xeon. And the newer ones are now the 8th generation of the Core I processors, which are, and what you can see here is performance already on the small one up to 112%. So those are very, very much better in performance than the old processors.
So that's with the IPC647E and S7D is compared with the IPC847D. Still,
yeah,
it's still better. Right?
Yeah. Well, they introduced the new generations of Core I processors. Yes. What? We also support still the RAID functionality. I don't want to tell that much about it. We have RAID 1 and RAID 5. RAID 1 is the data mirroring, so you actually duplicate and write everything in parallel to 2 HDDs. RAID 5 is written block by block on all HDDs. So in that case, when one of the HDDs has a failure, the other one still writes all the data, so no loss of data is kind of a relevant setup. Also supported for the IPCs. Yes, we can connect up to 6 monitors on this IPC 847E because we have the numbers of ports. Yeah, it's actually the main message here.
So all the displays clock here is built into the computer, or you option?
Well, the N. Yeah, you can also include, well, I think three are already on board and 3 are optional with specific graphic cards. Okay. There you see actually the difference. So it's actually IPC 647E, which is the one on top. And the 847E, which is down on the bottom. The main difference between E and D is actually we did not include a DVD drive anymore. We don't have an onboard Profibus and Profinet, so we need to work over CP. And no support for Windows 7, 10, 2015, Server 2018, and 2012. I actually compared it in the next slide, so it's a little bit better to compare. So we see here I highlighted the most important things in red. So DVD drive was included before, not anymore. We did change the SSD as ATA to the M.2 SSD access. As ATA is still available. Profinet and Profibus is optional, but it's not on board anymore. So we are, oh no, not optional, it's not on board anymore, so we need to work over CPs. Also the USB I was mentioning, Type-C now, and we increased the number of ports. Operating system, which I think is the most important part here. No Windows 7, led for WinCC 7.5, and no 2015. Now we do support Windows 10 and 2016 LTSB, and Windows Server System 2016-64. Then we came up with a high performance IPC. I don't know if that would be a topic for you. I'm just going to mention it anyway on the slides, which is the IPC 1047. It's actually, the background is we want to cover different use cases like data processing or like very analytics, which need high CPU performance. And for example, also for visualization, which need high CPU performance as well, or maybe also for like image recognition, which needs a better GPU performance, so graphic processor use. So we do have the option now with this high performance IPC 1047 to work with, that's actually on the other side, yes, to work that or provide that for the different use cases, CPU usage and GPU, so graphical part, and virtualization, which what we think might be the most common use case, to actually install a native Hyper-V server on the system. So this is the IPC to use for. Yeah, I also put the very detailed information there. So also DDR4 access, and actually a redundant power supply as well. And you can, I think, up to 28 cores for each CPU is available. So this is our solution for high performance here, if that is needed. I also put up some information regarding the C packages as well. So I had this slide yesterday already. I just want to mention the TIA selection tool, which we were actually discussing this morning with Tom. So what you can do is, over the TIA selection tool, you select your hardware first, and then you can actually configure the software to it. I don't know if the TIA selection tool is familiar. I'm just going to switch to the TIA selection tool. So this actually is what the TIA selection tool looks like. And you can add new devices. You find every device in here. When you, for example, start with the industrial PC as your hardware, for example, you want to use the Wi-Fi is very fast. Did I connect to the right one? I don't know. Or did I connect? Oh, I connected to the Siemens. Yeah, that's it. Almost connected to the Siemens Wi-Fi right away. Let's try this again. Oh, okay, time up. That's right. Yeah, okay. So for example, the WinCC 347E, let's just choose the first one. You see the product properties in here. So what is covered by default, you can also configure it differently. So you can configure, for example, your Core I processor. You can also choose the operating system or also your main memory and all that. So this can all be configured as well. But, and that's the most important part here, also your automation software. So when you add automation software, you can choose what you want to install here. Of course, 7.5 is not available because Windows 10 is not supported for this IPC. That's the reason why we don't find it here. In that case, we want to install version 15. And then we find here our added software. We can also configure the software. And then we can just say, I want PCS-based HMI SCADA. I want an engineering and a runtime system. I don't have an existing WinCC software. If I would have, it would give me all the information regarding operating. Engineering software, I want to have TIA. Version, oops. Oh, I did? Oh, no, I don't. Thank you. Okay. I'm just going to go to the package. Then you select how many power types. Just going to go with 4. How many licenses do you need? Why is this? Software update service, no, I don't need that. So we get all the updates for one complete year. Package, and now we start with your runtime, and then you can configure everything, okay? You can now also include the options here. So what do I need redundancy, login, recipes, and so on. And you can actually, you can see that here, also choose PM add-ons if needed. Okay, that about the selection tool. Okay. I also put a hyper slides. In the case you wanna just have a look at the selection. Okay. Yes, I just want to mention again the difference between bundles and packages. So bundles is actually your TIA software is already installed on the hardware. Please be aware, this is just possible for a WinCC advanced system and IPCs, not for a WinCC SCADA system. For a WinCC SCADA system, we also just talk about packages. So those are 2 order numbers for the package, for the hardware, and you need to do the installation afterwards. Main message here, yes, when you order a package, you can save up to 30% regular WinCC list price. You saw this slide yesterday as well. So buying a package always saves money instead of buying it step by step. Those are actually the last slides. Because I just wanted to mention the ITP because we might have had it yesterday. The ITP 1000, which is our industrial tablet PC, which comes with a full Windows system, and which means you can also install a full WinCC installation on the tablet. It has a capacitive multi-touch, and it also includes RFID reader, barcode reader, and a camera as well. And it has in total 6 shortcut keys on the side of the monitor itself. Okay, that's about the highlights for 15.1. Are there any questions regarding those slides so far? Okay. Then I would suggest, I don't know if you have already connected to the VMwares. I did bring VMwares on the cloud. So you just connect to the, should we write the name of the Wi-Fi in there? Yes. So the Wi-Fi name is WinCC-Expert HN. And I don't know about the and we need to decide who is going to use which VMware because I have in total 18 VMwares in the cloud. So of course just one user can use one VMware. So we should decide where to start, who uses which VM.
From my side. So you will also have one, right?
No, I'm going to use my local one. Log in is also written here on the whiteboard. And we do have in total 18, I think it is. And all of some are connected. How is the performance so far? Because everything is over Wi-Fi, so it might. Is it okay? Okay. So you will also find. I hope. Oh, okay. So maybe I'm not allowed to. Oh, did I just pick someone out? Okay. Okay, because what you can see in here is So on the desktop, you also see workshop documents, which is a link to all the PDF slides I put in here, because in those PDF slides you also find the hands-on. And we will start with, oh, now someone picked me up. So you find all the,
của em hôm nay.
Okay, start counting.
okay, I'm 0.
0, okay. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Anh em lái hết nhé. Anh em lái hết để cho nó đứng tự nhé. Đúng rồi nhé.
Rồi, về người nào điểm người đó nói để tôi nhớ. Đấy, số 1 để nói 1,
2,
3, 6, 7, 8.
ok, em 4 nhé.
And you find, we will start with standardization PDF first. Yes, and you should find the hands-on in there as well. So hands-on is always marked like this here. The first hands-on is actually a pretty free hands-on, which we're going to do, so you can just explore. So it's not like you have to do, oh, okay. Maybe I'm just gonna, oh, you're fine, that's okay. And there's also the project in the project folder. Okay, that's okay. Just use it, I use my one. And you can also open the DIA portal project right away. Which should like this, what I have here. And then you have opened up the TA portal. You can also start a PL system advanced right away, because that's what we're going to use today. And it should be installed on all your VMwares as well.
Nhưng mà có người nữa.
You can just use this here. Yes, workshop documents, and you find PDF slides. You cannot copy anything out of the. Okay. Oh, okay. That is so cool that you communicate. What is that called? What kind of chat is this? Yes. Yeah.
Let's look in one time and rework it.
What do we need to do? Normally that's not necessary now. Not that I know of. I've never done that before, or didn't need to do that before. Okay. Okay. I would, it's so confusing when you don't really watch. But I would say let's do a 10-minute break and before we start the hands-on. Is that okay? And then you can get all busy on the software.
Is exciting part?
Well, yeah, because I don't have to speak all day.
Okay, nói cho em là không vào được không?
Let's. Oh, by the way, in the slides is my introduction slide, and you can actually use the barcode to get my information details.
Không có đâu. Em biết cái shop bây giờ tài liệu ra. Bây giờ chỉ có xin chính cái môn này thôi. Đó, ai có xin chính cái áo nữa. Mấy áo của bạn này thì không là bắt cái ổ cứng như là mình làm nó không chỉ đúng.
Cái này có cái nhỏ, cái này thì tính chất là đã có trên đấy rồi, Google Drive rồi.
Thế nào?
Bắt thì professional practitioner là cái môn này.
Sao mình nhiều người không làm được?
Cái project bóng này là project bóng không đầu điện.
Em phải thôi, ngồi bạn thì lái xe xíu quá. Em phải đâu em phải chơi. Anh trai là cái đồ đồ mình gọi đó.
Xin được bài này cho con này.
Cái bộ cài WinCC 15 anh em là có nhỉ?
15.1.
À 15.1 có rồi. 15.1 thì Vịnh có rồi. Còn 7.5 thôi.
7.5 chưa?
7.5 trên mạng là có. Mấy nữa đội đồ này mua về thì có đi không sao lên cho anh em. 7.5 về
Một cái này nó bao nhiêu rồi
em làm hết rồi gì? Mai không làm đâu?
Có cái WinCC máy thích tí.
Có cái máy nào đấy. Cái này là có máy nào đấy. Nó là cái máy của nó không có à? Làm cái không có gì. Thực ra cái này cài đơn giản nó gì đâu, mình có tiền có cái tài liệu, mấy cái tài liệu hay không?
Oh, now I have to record.
Yep. You can click on it. Get nothing.
Right. Yeah, actually, really good money for that.
Yes. My friend, our college, also,
Not so much about
Maybe I should.
several thousand views and $100 for 2 years.
my college, cost many interns.
And is he just that private or?
And he make everything by himself.
The one that I told you,
He said 69,000 views. Book, I think
Does he say something?
yeah, he is.
But he said by Vietnamese, so you should be saying like
Yeah, okay, I won't understand.
No, he making the video and we have the caption by English, so everyone can see and can use.
But that's a lot of work.
Yeah, he had time.
Somebody work for me, I'm lazy. So wait, when I record, I actually have to record on this screen, right?
Yep.
You don't need the slides for that, right? The slides and the slides.
Do we have this slide? Yes. You have this slide.
Yeah, no, I mean like when I record, you're just gonna see this
or
one.
you bring the slide there.
Don't need. Might need to okay for only this report.
Because what we we start with the slide first.
Then I actually
There's just one screen enough.
Chỉ cần draw theo thôi.
I can actually choose this one. But I'm gonna choose this one.
What is this? Sideways.
That's negative.
Like,
It's negative.
it's free of charge.
I don't think so, no. Yeah. I don't think it's free.
The net free. Đi đây có anh không?
What? I didn't get that.
We have it's a forum.
Oh, okay.
It's free.
Okay. Well, maybe you can use that. I don't know.
I think not as too expensive. We can buy it. I think.
Well, if you have a better one, you can also use yours. I just have that. Yeah, that's a better software. It's like you can actually like design a movie.
Yeah, that's
Recording, so it's actually a better software. Why did you change its names? Okay.
Con này còn gì nhỉ? Còn plum.
We have that in Germany too, but it's bigger.
Sticker and more sweet. More sweet. This one they are sour. Sour. It's very.
Yeah, it's good.
Em hiểu standardization như nào nữa, kiểu là giống như anh em mình mỗi công ty là đang có một standardization riêng thì
Standardization.
là rất explain một lần. Ví dụ như là iOS thì có chuẩn riêng cho các dự án, các thư viện riêng, hoặc là các bên stream thế, hoặc là những cái thế. Thì cái kỹ thuật riêng của mình nó thực sự là hiệu quả hay chưa, hay là có vấn đề. Cái hướng dẫn standardization này của Siemens là cái cách để mình xây dựng một cái chuẩn chung, và sau đó là từ cái cách chung này anh em có thể về tự xây dựng các thư viện, tự xây dựng các cái hệ thống này phần mềm của mình phục vụ cho dự án của mình. Thì là mục tiêu của standardization.
You will find more slides in the PDF file, which I'm going to explain here. I don't want to cover the whole standardization part, but I just want to step into what does standardization actually mean and how can we cover it with existing software in Siemens. Should I record now already? Just need to let me know. Like all the talking I did before that, should that be on the? Well, then, because otherwise I'm gonna forget to press the button. So, okay. Oh, I feel like
Mình
I'm
ghi bên
on
kia.
the screen. Okay, that's not what I want.
Actually,
No. Because I cannot like change the screen here. Because it shows this, yeah. Okay, I hope that it's up like that, I won't forget it. Okay, so talking about standardization, I want to cover in this part the basic stuff regarding standardization, what it means. Then we go on what is included in standardization, like library handling, and how it's done in the TIA form. I'm not going to cover a whole library management training for this block because that was totally, like, I cannot cover it in 1.5 hours, but I'm just going to touch some topics. Are you familiar with the library management TIA form? Do you use libraries in TIA form so far? Yes? Okay. Then of course we will talk about face plates and screen windows as well. General part. How would the perfect automated workflow look like? We start on the left side, standardization, so actually creating a standard when we talk about using, for example, the same FBs, the same face plates, the same screens, the same DBs or whatever. Actually, everything was included in a project, but we want to use it in several projects. That's what we call about we have to create a standard in order to use it several times in different projects. The next step would be PLC generation, so we actually do the PLC programming, and we want to test the blocks. So we do a block testing, which can be done in our case, and we use that in the demo project as well, which is PLC Sim Advanced, or PLC Sim. Or in the case of WinCC Classic, it's the tax simulator. Or of course a real hardware, so a real PLC. And the last step is HMI generation, so generating the screens, which will be covered by CVAR in that case, which is an automatic generation of HMI screens according or based on the PLC project itself. Okay. What are the challenges for most customers here? So first of all, most customers programmers don't have a standard, so they just copy the old projects manually in new projects, or there are several machines out there and with similar functions, but you don't have a standard where you can just drag and drop your machine parts or your program parts into the new project. Most of the times creating a standard is of course in the first step very time consuming and cost intensive, and all the customer always want to reduce costs. So building a standard first of all means you have to put a lot of effort in it as well. How can we overcome or solve the issues, the challenges? With building a standard PLC blocks and HMI screens, like I was mentioning before, and storing them in a library, we can be more efficient in new projects and in future projects. And regarding the automation of program testing, that we can test our PLC blocks or HMI screens before actually downloading to the real hardware. That's why we also can work with PLC Sim Advanced, for example. Siemens solution here is including standardization versioning. We do have the library management and TIA portal, where the versioning is included in order to create types. And regarding the generating hardware PLC program, we can use the option TIA portal openness, which basically is scripting, generating and connecting the visualization. So the automatic generation of your HMI screens is done by CVAR. And yes, PLC Sim Advanced for block testing within using TIA portal openness is the way to go for automatic development tests. Okay, so this is the basic stuff. to actually go into more detail regarding library management, what does library management or how does it look in TIA portal? You see here on the left side, when using or developing our standard for PLC blocks. We can also use versioning, so library management includes the versioning. We also do have a very nice application example for how to use libraries in TIA portal. And I also included the links in another slide, so we will see that later on. And it includes a very, very detailed documentation regarding how to use library management. In TIA portal, we see the library management on the right side hand. So if I switch to the library here, we see here our types and our master copies, and we do have a project library and a global library as well. So this is where all the library handling is done. Okay. Regarding what is included in a library, we always talk here about types and master copies. What is the difference here? Master copies, what you can see here, are actually, like the name already says, copies of something, which does not include a versioning. So if I use this copy on any screen in the project or in any place in the project, if I do a change in my master copy, it will not get adapted to my instances in the project. On the other side, we do have types. Types do include versioning. So if I create my first type, which starts with the version 1, and I place instances of this type version 1 on the screen, I create type instances with the same version. As soon as I update and make changes to my version 1, I create and release a new version, which is in that case here type version 2. And when I want to roll it out in the project I am working on right now, I can update the global change on every instance in the screen. So kind of like the faceplate used like yesterday in WinCC version 7. So I do one global change and it rolls it out to every instance in the project. And of course, the most benefit out of this saves time in the engineering. Okay. So now I'm just going to show how the library management looks like in TIA portal. And like you see here, I also included in this slide the application example how to work with libraries in TIA portal. So if you want to see again how it's done, afterwards you can also have a look in here. Also includes a demo project as well. Okay, so now I start recording. Okay. Can I do something? No, I cannot. Can you, or does it, oh wait, wait. No, I was wrong, I didn't use it wrong. Okay. 3, 2, 1, okay. Alright, so this is the demo project I put on your VMware as well. So just for general information, I did include a 5018F and a PC station, so a runtime professional. Switching to the libraries, you just open up here on the right side the tab Libraries. And you see now, and we do have a lot of types and master copies already included in the project. What we basically use for the types is here in the equally design the color tank. We also have a folder here which is called CMAR, and we will use those two today as well. All the other ones are, because it's a big demo project, of course you can also have a look at the other things in there as well. But those, it's just a demo project which grew over the time, and I just include different topics for the training. So don't be confused by that. Yes, so I do have a lot of types in here, and I do have some master copies in here as well. What we can see right away is that when I can add a new type. When I just do a double click on adding a new type, I see my options I have. I can create a faceplate, user data type, HMI style sheet. Important here is that faceplate, for example, I can create for runtime advanced and runtime professional, as well as a user data type. HMI style, for example, I can just create for runtime advanced. So I won't be able to use HMI style for professional, so for PC station. Okay. Regarding what is the difference, or which objects can I use for types and which objects can I just use for master copies, we can actually open up one folder here or subfolders here, so we can already see objects, for example, or basic screens can just be master copies. Also, tag tables can also just be master copies, as well as I think DBs can also just be master copies. FBs or FCs or user data types from a PLC can be types as well. And I think there should also be, yeah. Here I do have a tank UDT, for example. So this is a user data type which I used in my PLC project here. PLC data type, and I find here my tank UDT as well. In order to see which types I'm using in my project, I can activate, and I know that might not be the case in your telephone right now, I can actually show and hide different columns in the project tree. So if you do a right click on the header up here, you can show your type name and your version, for example. And if you have activated that, and I just make this project tree a little bit bigger, you can actually see that I used the tank UDT type with the version 0.0.1 in this project, and it actually is the most recent type version I have located in my libraries as well. Okay. Regarding the difference to project library and global library here, so when I do have a global library, which I want to use in this project, for example, and I want to use, I don't know, maybe the Energy Suite library here. It's a pretty big library, that's why it's going to take a little bit longer. But if I want to use a global library or just some parts of a global library in my project, I can also import the library or maybe just update my project library here. If I open it up. And I go into my types, for example, I can do a right click on it and say update types to library. So in this case, I can actually just import it into the existing project library, say for master copies, say for common data, or I can just drag and drop it into my library. That's also possible. Okay. I can also create a new global library, or I can also open another global library here and then use the types or master copies or whatever I want to have in my project library with just a drag and drop in it. Okay. Yeah, it's recording. Yep, 6 minutes so far. Okay. So how does a type look, for example? I'm going to use the type which we basically use in the hands-on for today, which is the color tag, which is located under equity design. In order to edit a type, I can either do a right click on color tag and say edit type, or I can select the color tag and go to this button and open the basic library management, what I'm going to do right now. And then I change the screen to my library management in TIA form. In order to edit a type now, I do a right click on my version of the type and say edit type. Of course, if I do that from my TIA form right away, I will jump into this view right away. What I can see here is that a new version got created, which tells me the status in work. And my old version still exists because I do have the options. The option for this time is just to say discard the changes and delete the version, and it shows back to the old version before. When I want to do changes in my faceplate, I can now do them. For example, I think that's also what you do in your hands-on. I just include a IO field, for example. So I'm just gonna drag and drop an IO field in the screen. And now I can connect different things. In my case, because I placed the IO field, for example, right next to the belt, I want to see the status of my IO. So in that case, I just open up my properties, which I can see down here. These actually include every single object which is placed or used in the type itself. So I do have my bar tank here, I do have my tank well here, I do have the pipe here, and I do have my IO field in here. I can also call it differently or rename my IO field. Can I not do it in here? Okay. Then I'm just going to do it in my properties of the IO field. So I switch in here. Interesting. So in order to see the properties for my IO field, I have to select the IO field in the screen and then switch to the properties. And I'm just going to name it valve state or whatever. Valve state. Okay, that it has a individual name. And now it actually, we're using a faceplate just for remembering you. So faceplate means always we put the properties to the outside of the faceplate, which we can then link in the project. So that's actually the same thing we do here as well. You already do have some properties put to the interface of the faceplate, which are listed on the right side of this editor, and we can actually also see the errors, which object is connected to which property here. In order to link the process value or the process value of the IO field, or property process value of the IO field, that's the right wording, to the interface of the faceplate, I go to General of the faceplate. There I do have my process value property. And I just drag and drop it to my properties of the faceplate. And now I put, and that's actually all I have to do in order to put the property to the interface of the faceplate. And I'm just going to name it again, valve state. And the fan state. Okay. This is all I want to do so far. And I want to release the type. So I can either go to the banner up here and say release the version, or I go on the right side to the project tree and say right click and release version. So I'm just going to release the version, and then a dialog appears which asks me for a comment, for example. So maybe it would make sense to put in there what I have changed. And it asks me for update instances in the project. So if I have already used this type in my project, I'm going to update the instances in there right away. In my case, and in your case as well, there is already one instance used of this type in the project. So yes, I want to update the instance. And the second option here is delete unused type versions from the library, which actually means that there's still a version exists, but there is no instance existing of this version in my project. It gets deleted from the library. In that case, it won't happen because my 0.0.9 is still used in the project right now. So when I click OK, I see I have both versions still available. Okay. When I'm done with this, I can switch back to my TIA form screen, and I just click on the arrow up here. And now, and that's now new for you because you don't know where the instance is located in the project yet. So I open up my HMI runtime station, and I go to my suites, HMI suites. And there I have a lot of suites in there as well. My bottoming screen, or HMI screen, is located in main content, or underlined main content. And there I do have the O2 underlined bottoming. I open up this screen. And I see that I already used one tank in here. Looks kind of familiar. And I can already see that this version now of my faceplate is already using the new version I've just created. So the 00.10 version, which I just released. And it tells me the faceplate instance I use here is from the type color tank. Okay. If I want to use this this type in the screen again, because I actually want to have 3 tanks in here, I can just drag and drop the version I want to use in the project in my screen. So I'm just going to do that 2 times because I want to have 3 tanks. And now I want to connect my interface to the actual volume screen. So what I see when I select the faceplate, it has an interface tab here. And in this interface tab, when I open this one up, I can also see the same list I saw in the faceplate or in the library management. These are the properties I put to the outside in order to link them to the text. So I also see and find my valve status here again. And I can now say in the denomination column, connect. Up here. Oh yeah, that's modified, sorry. So I need to use this one here because if I modify it, I can also create a function list or a script for that, but I just want to create the tag. Or I can also create a VB script or a C script in that case, but I'm okay with the tag. So I create an HMI tag link and choose my tag I want to use here. And that's also something you need to know, because the tag I want to use is located in my HMI tags under, and I have to look myself actually. Name tags, I think it's here. So it's under the group underlying name tags, and then system process. And here I find all the way down my rel underline control tag, underline status tag. And that's the one I want to link here. And of course I need to repeat this for all the 3 tags. Oh, I actually used the wrong one. It's actually this one here. So that's how I actually connect my faceplate to the project here, or to the process values. I only have red colored tags here, so of course, because I have a so-called tag color property here, which is actually linked to my color of the bar chart here, I want to change this one as well. So my first tag is red, my second tag is green, so I just changed the color, and my third tag, for example, is blue here. And in that case, I also can connect my recipe value, which is already done in the first tag, also in your project. I see here recipe red. It's also an HMI tag. Of course, for this tag done, use the green tag. I use my recipe green, which is also an HMI tag, and which is located in the underlying main tags folder again under recipe tags. Should be in there. Yes. So here I also find recipe blue, recipe green, and I just attach those tags to my tags. I think I actually covered 2 hands-ons now, so you have enough time to do that on your own now. That's all we wanted to do so far, connecting the interface to the actual WinCC tags. Okay, yes. So the first hands-on was more like getting familiar with the library management, and the second hands-on I have covered already is actually for the faceplates. Regarding the links, I wanted to mention, I also put a slide in here. Again, you find here a toolbox for HMI project. I also put in the getting started for CWAR, and guideline on library handling for TI components also put in here. So this actually is the hands-on for connecting the faceplate. And I would say like 15-20 minutes or something, and then I show the next part. If you have questions, of course, let me know. But now it's your chance to work with the hands-on. Okay. I just pause it and then I keep going. So you have just one file, or do you want to have separate files? Or everything separate? Okay. Processing video. I play it again. I talked 20 minutes again? Then I would stop talking. That's like, that's German, I'm sorry. Just put it in the temp folder. Oh, by the way, if you need the software for the pianos, I can give them to you right away too. Or I have it on Simplicity. Maybe I can just share it with you. That would make more sense. Okay, so this just calls. This one was and it's paid. All right, saved. You never get like that healthy food in Germany. They always serve like bacon and stuff. Yeah, that's the reason why Germans are like pastry. did work, yes. But if you want to repeat it, but I don't want to hear myself. You can do that on your own. It's so hard to hear yourself.
We did many times that we record everything was nice until we found out that there's no sound.
Oh, but I saw that there is some. Like it showed me. I can still see it. Here you go. Oh, come on.
Why on YouTube?
Your voice is beautiful.
Don't shut me. Don't shut me.
Okay. Oh, okay. That was enough difference. That's so weird hearing yourself. I like it. Yes, it does.
Nghe lại luôn. Nó hại. Rồi đấy em có ví dụ đâu. Kiểu con làm lúc gì. Cô bác anh có thể đặt ra nữa, đặt ra thì có cái cô bác. Nhưng cô bác thì nó có tiền đọc số thôi. Ba lần cái đấy rồi phép thì là cái kia rồi. Tức là em tất cả các này em đưa vào một lớp đúng không? Thì cuối cùng là em tạo ra một cái con trỏ của số quát đấy.
What's your strategy?
A lot of them is automation engineer related.
So what can I know about it?
This guy also you would learn is my friend. He is also create some small clip and post on YouTube and share the knowledge with mình có mấy clip của em tổng tiền bây giờ mình đưa của mình
vài tỷ.
Billion này là
Oh wow! So actually you should sit here.
Dạo này có chạy được PLC không?
Anh em đây chủ yếu là dùng WinCC thôi đúng không? Ít là dùng WinCC ở Việt đúng không? Dùng WinCC ở Việt Nam sớm nhớ không? WinCC ở Việt Nam ấy là kiểu nó cũng tiện như thế đúng không? Cái kia thì bấm phát là chạy về chạy kia nó cũng bỏ luôn đúng không? Đấy thì nó còn có các mô phỏng truyền thông cái thứ nào ấy hay nếu mà mình dùng WinCC đơn giản thì WinCC là cái xong rồi
Anh chạy sim chưa? Em chỉ trong HMI với trong cái HMI nó là để quay cái HMI connection. Xong mình chuyển sang cái 5.8.
Đó, đúng rồi, cái này chuyển qua sim, bật sim này lên anh, bật sim vào van lên đã.
To actually see how what is working in the runtime, or actually I basically just use the simulation because that's totally enough. But the PLC of course is running a program, and in order to get the connection during the simulation, please download the program to PLC Sim Advanced. I don't know if you're all familiar with PLC Sim Advanced. What you need to do when starting PLC Sim Advanced, you need to select the network adapter. In our case, it's locally, so PLC Sim is totally fine. The difference to the PLC Sim virtual Ethernet adapter is just that you can communicate to the WinCC stations on another machine, for example, over the network. And what you need to do here is then start a virtual S7-1500 PLC. So you just type in an instance name, which can be whatever name you choose. You choose the PLC type, which is in our case a 1500, and then you just say start. Then PLC Sim Advanced is looking for an instance in TIA portal, and it should detect the 1518F with the IP address 192.168.1.1. If that is the case, you can start the download from the TIA portal, and then in the dialog appears, I will give the, in my case, because I already downloaded it. The problem why my VMware is so freaking slow is because I actually decreased the RAM in order to start more VMwares on my local machine. So 8 GB should be needed for today. Portal, I just decided to use just 4. So yeah, then just download, and when you did the download, you should get connection during runtime. So when you start the simulation of the WinCC here, I'm just gonna start the graphics runtime again. So if you start the WinCC simulation, you should get this screen. To navigate to the bottom of the screen, you just click the bottom up here in the header. And then you get to the screen with the tags. And you click this bottom up here in the header. And the connection should be established. Of course, the PSSM Advanced instance has to be running, so it should be blink, or the green LED should be visible.
Mất kết nối rồi. Đã có kết nối rồi. Cái để đăng nhập cái này là gì anh?
Cái gì? System login đây em chạy được rồi đúng không? Tí nữa để hỏi anh cũng chưa biết cái này.
Oh, no, that one, you actually don't have to do that. You can just disconnect the changes, that's fine. We switch back. New version. Yes. Right click on the type. If it did not click on
Siemens Advanced này nó khoảng bao nhiêu con cùng một lúc ạ? CPU 16 con. Không nhiều.
bật cái sim lên thì mới kết nối được, chưa đã bật được rồi.
Lên chưa? Đây nó lót xuống. Không xích được à? Hiểu.
Cho ẩn cái này đi, ẩn cái này.
And also when you look at the result should be okay. Okay, I just want to show you really quick what the result should be. When we start the simulation, we see this screen. Our PLC System Advanced is running fine. You see it on the LED here. It's green. So the simulation should have connection to the PLC program. When we switch now to our bottling screen, which can be accessed when you click this button up here in the header. Yes, I am. And we see now we do have our 3 tanks here with the I/O field. And when I actually want to see something in the simulation, I have to log in first. So I switch to the login screen here. And I'm already logged in, but you may be not. You just click on the button Show Log On Dialog, and the login is Siemens. Everything in small letters. I also configured a log off timing. So please be aware, after 5 minutes of not operating in the runtime, you will be logged out automatically. Switching back to the bottling screen, I am now able to hit the powering the machine on. But what I see here is that the tank level is low, or tank is even empty, so I cannot fill my bottle. So with clicking on Fill Tank, I actually see that the tank is filling up, and when I configured the valve statuses correctly here, then I see that also with the Fill Tank button, I just say, okay, every valve should be just activated, and every tank starts filling. So it's not a very complex program. I just say every tank fills up. Okay, I also see in my IO field the status of the valve, which is in that case of course 1 because it's filling. As soon as I have reached my level here, my tank level too high, the draining of the tank or the filling of the tank should stop and the valve status should go back to 0 again because the tank is full. Okay, just to switch back to the engineering itself, when I select my faceplate again, how should it look like after I've rolled out the linking to all of the 3 tanks? My valve status is actually my symbol of the valve. So when I switch to the faceplate itself in the library management, to show you this really quick, what's behind the logic is basically this graphic I/O field. So I use a graphic list behind this object, and when I open my tank 1 valve, and I see here, this is also connected to a process value, but where did I connect my graphic list? Because it has to be a graphic list, because the symbol changes as soon as the process value changes, and that's what I connected here. So when I select my graphic I/O field, I see in my properties that I do have a graphic list connected, which is called glist valves. When I want to see what's in the graphic list, I can also just click the green arrow here, and I jump into my graphic list, which basically has those 2 graphics here. So this icon here for valve is closed, and this icon here for valve opens up. My value is my value for 0 is icon valve closed, and 1 icon valve open. And I think that's clear. Okay. That's all I need to consider regarding the programming. One other thing, and I think that's also mentioned in the next hands-on, what I want to show is, because we had everything regarding UDTs and structures in WinCC 7.5 yesterday, you are also able to use UDTs for your faceplates in TIA portal. For example, I don't want to show the valve status in the I/O field. I want to show my actual content in the tank. I can connect, and I'm just going to switch back to the properties here. So I do have right now my process value of my I/O field, which is linked to the outside world, to my properties of the faceplate. And I do have here, for my valve state, right now an integer is attached, but I can also change this data type here. I can also switch down here to the properties itself. You see here I can also change to full, daytime, and then I see here already from my energy objects, which are also existing in my project here. But when I go all the way down, I actually see that one tank underlying UDT I was mentioning in the beginning, which is also a type. So if I want to use a structure or a UDT in my faceplate type, the UDT also has to be a type. And I can also see the version behind it, because just one version exists for the tank UDT. I can then just choose this version. And when I connect it, I also see my elements here, which are color and content. And when I now want to link my process value of my I/O field here, of the valve state, and I want to link it to my content, I just drag and drop the property to my content, and then it's linked to my content element. So basically my I/O field has now in the property process value dot content. So the same thing like yesterday in WinCC Classic. I just type it in there manually. Okay. I release my tag. Okay. And I switch back to my bottling screen. And now I already see, because I still select my faceplate, but the configuration changed. So my valve state, which I changed to a UDT as a data type, cannot be just a Boolean tag anymore. I have to use a structure element here. So all my structures are, okay. About the structure or the UDT I have in my HMI tags. I switch to my HMI tags folder. And I do have a folder UDT. But this tag table still is empty. In order to implement the structure instances from my PLC program to HMI, you need to know that under my program blocks, and then I need to look first because I'm not very sure where it is right now. System simulation? Yes. So in the group system simulation, you find the tank detail CD, which consists down here in the details view, you see tank red, tank green, and tank blue. That's exactly the structure we are looking for. Because when we open that one up, we already see that this one, this structure instance, is based on our tank UDT, which includes the elements color and content. So we basically just drag and drop this DB into our HMI tag table tank info. And I think I've used it somewhere before because it adds me here a 1, but it doesn't matter. It's regarding the functionality right now, so we're just going to do that. And it is linked to the correct PLC tag. Okay. So now I have the tag, the structure tags, and I just want to add the structure tag to my valve state here. So I choose exactly that tag, that structure element under my UDT and tank info, and because it's tank red, it would only make sense to use my tank red UDT. And now I see my structure instance is linked to my valve state. And then in the faceplate itself, again, it connects or links the structure instance to the elements there. So basically the same functionality as in WinCC 7.5. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. After your runtime, just going to restart the graphics runtime. Switch to my volume screen. And I see now, of course I didn't do it for the two others now, but in the first I/O field, I actually see the content of my tank here. Okay?
So see the
That's what's in the what's the fill level right now.
viewer.
Yeah, of the tank. And we will, after that now, we will also go to, and that's the next hands-on, mobile pop-up, which I showed already yesterday in the WinCC 7.5 blog, where we can actually change the content of the tank manually in a pop-up window with more detailed information about the tank. Okay. I'm just going to end the record. $2 billion! Oh my gosh! So I can actually stop working now. Okay. Let's switch back to settings. Okay, that was using UDT instead of faceplate. Your hands-on would actually be the exact same one. So I would say 5 to 10 minutes, or let's say 10 minutes, because I actually want to cover the mode of pop-up, so the last hands-on for efficient engineering before lunch break. Pizza. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. No, I want to have a steak now. Would you do that? No, sure, it's fine. That's totally fine. Oh, okay. I don't think we can finish efficiently before lunch. Yes, that's what I think too. That's what I would say too.
When you edit one template in the library, it's automatically create a new version.
So automatically, oh, a new version. Yeah. But you can also discard the changes.
Yeah, we can reset the changes. Can we just edit it and
The old version?
keep the number? I mean, can we change first? Keep the old number, like 11.
Oh no, it's not possible. Because it actually is safe with other configurations that the one we create right now, so we cannot replace it. Not possible. Yeah.
Em có làm cái đây mà màn hình không có đây là có đấy. Nhất là cái màn đây.
I already gave you the project, right? Or content. Oh yeah, you're related to content.
I only need
You, whatever you want to display, but I use content.
only content.
Yeah. You can also link cover with another title field. Yeah, so here you can, and if you want to keep the old version, you can also keep it. And now it should be updated right away in the project. Looks good. But did you, I think, did you change the data type?
The good thing that if you can
It's 10:40 now. It was 10:30, then it was 10:10, and now it's Oh, I know, yeah, it's better, but still, with I'm gonna arrive now in Singapore at 3:20. Did I do anything to Oh, no, you don't create a tab. What you do is, because you should actually change the info in the PLC. So yeah, because you want to have access to the tab. The user tab is on most So the only thing you do is you just tap the phone. It's here. And do which also completes very easy.
Một cái biện pháp chứ em thì là cô đấy một cái nó đâu
cái này gắn với CP green này, này là blue này. Kéo nó ra, còn đi để kéo ra đây, chọn một bộ cái dài này, chọn kéo nó lên. Basically chó Con nọc lên chưa? Đăng nhập lên. Nó lên. Chọn màu này. Lấy màu, bốn màu, chọn màu. Chọn đi nữa. Chọn là
what I wanted to show before the pizza alliance is actually very one of the last topics, and we do the hands-on just after lunchtime. But I wanted to show it before. Because I'm just getting started.